Hey, what's up, folks? Alex with Bay Cities Construction, and this is The Construction Show. Tonight we have episode 50, and we've got Casey in studio. What's happening, Casey? Hey, guys, we're going to be talking about some of the things that could go wrong with your construction project, and the bigger it is, the bigger the problems. So, Casey, let's get into it. Let me give you a little bit let me give the folks just a little rundown of what we're going to cover tonight. So, guys, tonight we have a really cool show. We're going to be talking about unforeseen construction costs. We're going to also talk about some costs that you should consider when you're planning out your project. And our new segment, Alex's Trivia Corner. That'll be fun. We got a little Black History trivia question. And our Q&A at the end. And we've got Casey's Tip Corner that we're going to cover together. So, hey, man, we got a really cool show. Let's get into it. And let me introduce you to Casey. He's our senior project manager here at Bay Cities Construction. Started with us in 2019. Casey manages all of our projects, and he also helps out with putting together the quotes. So when you guys hire us to determine what your construction costs are going to be and what the design is going to be, Casey is part of the team that helps organize all of the vendors, get you the quotes. So, Casey, tonight we're going to be talking about unforeseen construction costs. And we're going to talk about some of the stuff that comes up commonly. So, electrical panels. Let's start with the electrical stuff, right? Because whenever we're dealing with these houses, the average house is built when?
Around here in late 40s, early 50s.
Okay. So, what percentage of the houses do you think that we deal with when we're getting into the design phase with them? What percentage of the houses do you think need the electrical upgraded?
We're at about the 90% mark right now.
Right on. So when we say for folks that are learning about this or considering a remodel, when we talk about we need to upgrade their electrical, what are we talking about specifically?
Normally it's upgrading to 200 amp service panels. The normal around here was 100 or less. So we're normally moving up to 200 amp range. And we're normally trying to get you to where you're able to hold into the new arc fault. So
tell them what the arc fault breakers are and why we need them.
Arc faults are the next evolution that came after GFCI. So all the arc faults are set up for security where you have living spaces, also in your bathrooms and kitchens. So they're really meant to see if there's any type of arc literally in your wires, in your wiring system that trips it before you cause a fire.
So, like, I think for like the layman, right? Like, if you consider when we were kids and kids would stick like a paper clip into the outlet, right, and get a little zap, and sometimes you'll see the actual arc, right, when you put a piece of metal in there.
That is part of it. That's pretty much what they're looking for. The arc is really looking to see if there's arcing inside of your wires. Like if you have a broken wire inside of your house, if something was shielded inside there, it's basically meant to take it back to the neutral side. Stops it at the neutral side. So if it's trying to backfeed in, it gets rid of it right
So
there.
Ultimately, it's a safety feature.
It is a safety feature.
It'll trip the breaker, and then there's no power on that line.
Correct.
So like, let's say a property owner was hanging something. They're drilling in the wall. They hit a wire. Would that cause a trip?
It will.
Okay. All right. Cool. So right here on the I don't know. We haven't come across a panel that looks like that in a while, but
Today.
Oh, you came across one that has fuses like that?
Yeah, we had a fuse one that was literally in the last day. So
I think most people don't realize that houses built in that era in the 50s, they had maybe 10, 12 circuits total.
If that.
Yeah. Under 10 for sure.
6 was ours today. So
Well, this panel has 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
So definitely when we have this condition, there's no way we can remodel the kitchen or upgrade the system without
you don't have grounds. So in order to even do this, we have to bring in ground wires because most of the old ones don't have grounds to begin with. So we have to introduce ground wire, and you've got to be able to introduce the arc faults. And most kitchens right now, they require about 9. So You have to have 9 open breaker spots, the full-size breakers, not splits. So when people start splitting their panel down to get all these new circuits in there, they start using the splits in there. As soon as we go to upgrade your panel, we have to upgrade it size accordingly.
So, we've been doing this for a while. I've been doing this since 2004. And I think when folks start getting their head around, hey, I'm going to do this remodel, I'm going to do a kitchen, I'm going to do a bathroom, or I'm going to do kind of the common area, they're considering, the cost of cabinets and flooring and countertops and plumbing fixtures and stuff like that. But this is not something that they never even tell us this. They never say, hey, listen, I want to do this kitchen remodel, but My panel's too small. They like, that's always brought to their attention, right?
Well, this triggers other stuff too. So now that you're getting into this new panel, in order to get past the code for your inspections to come out, you have to have the proper bonding now. So you have to have ground rods put in. You have to have 2 ground rods put in. You have to be bonded to your gas and your cold water. So all these new little things that have to be done in order for you to get your panel put in, you've got to have all these done, and your inspection comes out and hinged upon these things. You don't have them done, you don't pass your inspection.
Yeah. So what Casey's talking about, the bonding, is basically a connection to ground, which allows the breakers to break quickly, right? Mm-hmm. That's the idea, is that you don't get electrocuted. As soon as that somebody is exposed to a live current, that the breaker trips.
Electricity is taking the fastest path to get to the ground.
Right.
And if you were in between it, you're going to get hit.
You're going to get hit, but it's going to be a little light hit. More like a bump.
Going to be less if you're grounded properly.
Right. So that's the idea behind it. Look, I'm one of the biggest critics of a lot of this legislation and regulation, and that just adds costs. But making the electrical system safer is, I think, worth it. I think that as far as money spent, making it perform better, quicker, is I think it's money well spent.
Well, and if you're now with everybody who has the new cars, charging car systems, in order for you to get that system, you have to have your electrical upgraded to the proper service. So you're not going to be able to put it in.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think over the last 6 months, we've had more and more people asking for that, right? For that capability.
Yeah. Whether
they already had a car or they know that they're going to get a second car. So that definitely plays into the equation on that aspect. All right, so as we peel back stuff from the walls, termite damage or dry rot. So where do you normally find it, Casey?
Around your shower pans. So anywhere that's going to be right around where your shower water drips in the areas that are there, under your toilets. If their toilets aren't sealed, wax rings aren't sealed properly, windows, really bad. French doors are the worst.
That's the norm. Now, the windows, if they've had aluminum windows for a long time, or wood windows, the old school wood windows.
Wood's the worst.
Yeah, they definitely leak.
Yeah.
And it's mostly because of the quality of the waterproofing connection to the frame of the window.
Correct. They didn't know back then to the extent that we take it to now. So there's a huge difference in the way flashing is applied now versus what it was applied back in that time. So at that time, they still primarily just use stucco molding for the wood that goes in there. It expands, contracts, it leaks.
Now our policy is, if we change out the windows, we have to do new construction windows and we have to break the stucco. So that's just a norm. And I think occasionally, probably on a house that's got 17 windows, maybe we have to reframe 1 or 2 because they were leaking. It's been a while since we've had to replace 4 or 5 days worth of framing.
Yeah, no. Normally it'll just be the shower window. If there's going to be one, it'll be a shower window that's going to be reframed, but normally the rest of them are usable.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one. Mold restoration. So every once in a while we'll pull some cabinets out of the kitchen, and they'll have had an old leak from a dishwasher. This looks like caused by a dishwasher spray out.
Yeah, I'd say most of the time we get it is going to be after somebody calls us having insurance. So somebody already had water leaks, they didn't know, insurance company comes and deals with the mold mitigation on it, and then we kind of come in and take over from that point.
Yeah, in fact, we're working on one right now that had that situation. These are, now when maybe not so unforeseen, if it came in from a mold remediation situation, the mold remediation people peel back the stucco and the drywall and all that stuff, and you get to see what you got. It becomes more unseen or unforeseen in shower pans that have been covered up and have been leaking for maybe 15, 20 years.
Yeah. Or again, behind something that you can't see where it's leaking. So if you have cabinets and it's behind a cabinet or it's behind a wall somewhere in there where it's leaking, the one that we got right now that we were talking about that you were just mentioning down Manhattan, that one also from sewer leak, you get all the rot in the metal. So you get all the nails and the shear panel that all get rotted out, and that's unforeseen because it's hiding behind a wall. When you peel it back open, now you've got a structural problem.
That's right. Yeah, the shear walls in that one, they were exposed to water, so they got rusted out. Okay, cool. So definitely water leaks to watch out for. The next thing, particularly if you're planning on doing an addition. The next thing I want to talk about is that as far as unforeseen costs is dealing with the aspects of the lot and the land surveying. So two things have to happen that are super important. One, the property owner has to come up with a title report to see if there's any existing easements to any of the utilities. And then number two, a very clear, when we do the topo map, a very clear understanding of all the heights at the critical spots, right? So the corners of the building, we also need to calculate what the finished height is going to be inside of the new addition. The finished floor, so that we can, this is particularly the case up in PV, right? Where we have to show them the ratios between the lowest part and the highest part
Correct.
And the roof lines.
And fire egress around the house, physical.
That's right, fire egress. So why is this an unforeseen expense? Or can be an unforeseen expense?
Well, yeah, first you need it just for your architecture. So you need to know your heights and elevations as soon as you're trying to plan on where you're going to put something. So if somebody's trying to put an ADU somewhere on their property, you need to know exactly where it's going to be for all the reasons. Grading, for water, grading, for where it's located on the property. Mm-hmm. So
it's true. And up in RPV, that's all part of the flag. After you trigger, if your addition is over a certain square footage, it triggers the flag setup. But for those of you that live up here in RPV, you'll see flags all over the neighborhoods all the time.
Any place with a view. Any place that somebody's bought a view, they own that view. You need to make sure that you're not impeding somebody else's view when you're trying to build.
Well, but not only that, that's for sure. The key thing is that we're able to show what the building, the structure is going to look like, shape wise and in a 3-dimensional.
Yeah, that's the neighborhood continuity. So a lot of areas now they're running into this where they don't want you to build something that is so drastic from the other areas of the neighborhood. Like you're only allowed to go so far before they tell you that
the look of the neighborhood.
Yeah, the look of the neighborhood.
Yeah, for sure. That's a significant issue here in the South Bay, up on the hill, and even down here in the flats in Redondo too. All right, so we talk about money. You can expect to pay more money, but how much more money? I think everybody's trying to get their head around the cost, the total cost, startup costs, and then now if we figure, hey, what are you going to deal with? How much money should you set aside for the unforeseen costs? Get their head around the cost. So unforeseen costs, change orders. I know that some customers they've been warned of the contractor and their change orders. So, are change orders a bad thing?
No, they're part of construction. How do you know exactly what you're going to deal with in a project? Well, we do ours a little different. We build our projects out and try to identify the job scope before we ever get started to a very extent version of what most people do. But if I still open up a wall and I don't know what's inside there, I literally don't know until I open it up and can see.
So when we come up with it, for those of you kind of watching, our different contractors will handle this differently. But if we come up with we come to a situation where there is an unforeseen cost, we'll have the vendors come in, assess what it's going to cost, labor, materials, and then present the owner with a price. That's true for both scenarios. So there's two scenarios that could happen. One, for the unforeseen costs, or two, if the homeowner changes their mind. And that occurs all the time, right? As we start assembling things and they start to see it come together, sometimes they change their mind about stuff, right? So what we do is we calculate the delta of what the difference in the cost from the original game plan and what it's actually going to cost based on the changes that they want to make, and then that's what they have to pay.
Correct.
So I've always found that to be the fairest way to do it, because otherwise we have to make contingency budgets that are huge, and we may or may not use them. So it creates I think that's the best way to figure it out, is once you come up, deal with a change order as it comes up, figure out what it's really going to cost to solve that particular problem, and get the customer to understand what it's going to take and do it and pay it.
I think we've had other versions too where we don't know at the beginning of the project what the totality of, let's say, drywall is going to be. Because we are opening up areas, but we don't know how far we have to keep opening it up or where it's going to go to. So leaving something out of the scope and making it a change order once you know the totality of it, again, saves you money, because now we're just not giving you a blanket cost for how much it could be. It sometimes works better that way too.
Well, I think so. I think that as far as maintaining goodwill with the customer, giving them a true cost based on what we're actually going to do versus me guessing it and trying to make sure that we cover our basis, right? Because we don't want to be negative on the change order. We don't want to do something. I don't want to charge somebody $10,000 for something that's going to be $18,000 to actually build out, right? So the fear is always that when you're dealing with the unknown and you're trying to put numbers together, that you want to make sure you're covered. You don't want to be upside down as the contractor, right? And the other version of that is true also. You don't want to overcharge, and then when they see your quote, it's so much higher than everybody else because you had to put in a prudent contingency amount, right? So dealing with stucco and drywall in particular, you don't know how much you're going to have to take out, because in stucco you have to peel back stucco until you get to a solid waterproofing membrane. And with drywall, at the beginning of the job, unless it's some jobs from go, you're going to strip it down to studs. So,
yeah, correct.
So on those jobs, that's no problem. But on other jobs, it isn't quite clear how much you're going to have to take out. Look, if you have plaster and lath and plaster setup, or button board plaster, that stuff's all going to go. But if you already have drywall in the spaces and you're talking about punching holes to run electrical or punching holes for plumbing, it's hard to gauge how much. You don't need to strip everything down.
That's also kind of the version of the difference between new construction and remodel, though. When you're doing remodel, it's unforeseen. So
right.
You really don't know what you're going to get into until you really get into it. As you start peeling it back, you start noticing the things that you need to take care of.
Okay. No, I think that's those are all good points. And I think people can appreciate that approach, right? So, all right. So some of the other things that we have to deal with is stuff that isn't up to code. What I like to call the previous sins. And many times those are all behind the walls.
Yeah, and I think people are under a misconception when they use the word grandfathered now. I think everybody, when they start talking about things, saying it's grandfathered, there's really no such thing as grandfathered anymore. As soon as we go in and touch an area that you're working on, remodeling, fixing, as soon as I put my hands in there and touch it, I'm responsible for it now. My responsibility as a contractor is to make sure that's brought up to the current code. So
no, 100%. So look, this is a very common situation. In the sink, let's say you do a kitchen remodel. You remove the sink, you're exposing the drain pipe, so part of it goes up and it vents out, part of it goes down. Sometimes the vent isn't big enough,
Correct.
Or the vent, the angles that are in the vent are incorrect. Other times the drain pipe is clogged, right?
Or doesn't have cleanouts.
Or it doesn't have a cleanout. Yeah. So that's a perfect, I think, example that encapsulates this. So the wall is exposed now. You're going to put in 30, 50, 60, $80,000 worth of cabinets and countertops in front of it. Do you deal with the drain that's been reduced by 80% now? Or do you reassemble the kitchen because you don't want to give the client a change order for the pipe, for the drain, the sewer line and the vent pipe? Well, the right thing to do is to change the pipe out, because God forbid you assemble all of this stuff and now you have a chronically clogged drain, right? That'd be foolish to do that. But we've seen that.
But here comes the problem that we talked about at Unforeseen Cost. You open it up. Are you on slab or are you on raised foundation? The cost difference between raised foundation switching that drain out versus slab switching that drain out, it's a big number.
100%.
So which way do you go?
100%. And you may have to change another 17 feet of linear pipe, and the pipe that's there may not even have the proper slope. And now you're going to be dealing with a lot more. Maybe the plumbing budget for us on our end was $1,800, and now we're talking about $17,000 or $22,000, right? So, I mean, this is one of those things where you're at a crossroads, right? Do you risk assembling the kitchen again and not change the pipes out, or do you bite the bullet and change the pipes out?
That's Palos Verdes Estates. We had that. Ran a camera ran into water. You got a belly in it. So before we even started the project, we had to reevaluate and change the entire scope for plumbing, redo the entire inside of the plumbing sewer system,
Yeah, so what Casey's referring to, we have a vendor that'll run the cameras in the sewer lines, and they actually take a video so you could see it. And it'll be, we run it from one point through where it drains. So if you have standing water in a sewer line at any given time, you got a problem. You can't, you're not supposed to have that, right? You're supposed to have a nice clean, a pipe that drains without water being stagnant in there. And then if you do, then it looks like this picture here, right? So this pipe, and this is one of the jobs we're doing in Orange County now, but many of these houses are on slab. The sewer lines are hammered. And what do we mean by that? Basically, the pipe is a steel pipe, and it's completely corroded, and it's got massive blockage. Yeah. So if you spend $200,000 or $300,000 doing this remodel, and you leave that pipe in the ground like that, you're not going to have performance. You're going to have a nightmare.
Well, what happens after you spend that kind of money, and then all of a sudden 2 years later, you realize that you've got a blockage. You go in there, Roto-Rooter comes over there and runs their cable snake down your drain and cracks your pipe underneath your house, under the slab, under the dirt of your freshly remodeled home, that you now have to tear up all your floors, saw cut your concrete, replace everything inside your house after you just did it 2 years ago.
Yeah, better to do it now, for sure. So, luckily this client, elected to do it from go. We priced it out from the beginning. So their sewer lines are being replaced completely. In fact, we should probably do a video on just that, and just replace the sewer lines and what it looks like.
Yep.
Okay, guys, so let's talk about some other things that you need to consider. So some of you may not realize, some of the property owners don't realize that even on small jobs, we have to do as-builts to present to the city. If you're in Torrance, particularly, right?
Yeah.
If you're in Torrance, you're remodeling the bathroom, even though you're not removing or any walls, you have to do a floor plan.
Correct.
So you got to show what's existing and what is proposed. So if they haven't done that, kind of what's the process? Casey, run them through it.
You are going to need to contact a company that does as-built or any type of architecture firm. That we have our own in-house guys that we use. But basically what they do is they come out and they measure all of your property. They do all of your walls, windows, doors, all that as it exists right now. So the way that it's sitting right now, they want to see all of that in its original state. And then from there, you're able to take real measurements to whatever it is that you want to do off of what your existing as-builts are.
Okay, cool. Yep, definitely. It's become more of the norm that we have to do as-built plans.
And I think the one we got, the other one was if you have somebody who's got a condo, it's you have to be able to show the different floors and all of your neighbors that are in even your condo in Torrance too.
Yeah, that's right. We ran into that over by that complex over by the beach. Mm-hmm. It was a big complex. We had to do, I think there were like 3 or 4 buildings on there. We had to show them on the property. It was insane for a little bathroom remodel. All right, so the other things to consider are kind of small, but it adds up. We never can gauge how much trash we're going to produce during a job. So I used to kind of have a pretty big number in there for the trash haul. So we don't do that anymore. We basically will include the dump fees for the demo. So all of the trash that we're going to produce at the demo, that's fixed into the contract price. The subsequent fees will be for trash hauls after the fact. Correct. So we do that because it's very hard to audit how much to put in there, and we were always short on throwing trash away. And depending on the size of the project, it's a big number. So kind of the cool thing is, like, if we're doing framing, we can the guys will recycle the wood. They'll sort it out. They'll sort out the framing, the masonry, any concrete stuff will be recycled. So that's part of the mandatory recycling plan. Now, this is something you have to deal with all the time, is the environmental testing. So run them through the process for that. So this is before we go to construction. There's a series of fees.
Correct.
There is a series of fees, and there's a series of testing that has to be done. So walk them through. What are we testing for?
Yeah, this is something that's come up in the last year that's become really prevalent around here. It's AQMD. So what they are is they are the government agency that they don't do the testing. They check the results of the testing to make sure that you don't either have mold, lead, or asbestos on your property. So now, in order for you to get a permit I believe in California, you need to have AQMD results if you are positive or negative for asbestos and lead in the area affected that you're going to be working on. So if you're going to go do a bathroom or a kitchen, or let's say you're doing a bathroom and a kitchen, we have to contract out a separate company to come out and test those areas. So if they're going to test a kitchen, they're going to test the drywall, they're going to test the countertop material, they're going to test mastic that may have been used to glue, hold something down. They're going to take 3 samples from each one of these areas, and they send it all off, get it tested. They range roughly from $500 to $1,500 for the testing to be done. And that is something that we cannot get around. We cannot get the permit until we have that in our hand.
And we certainly won't be able to get anybody to do an inspection without that.
Yeah. We've had inspectors come up and walk away.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that's just part of our process now. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely strictly enforced. Okay, so let's talk about something a little bit different. So the other thing to consider is the move out. So how are you, if your remodel's over a certain size, many times I think people can live there with a kitchen remodel. They can even live there with a kitchen and bathroom remodel if they have another bathroom. But depending on where the living space is in relation to the area being remodeled, sometimes they got to move out. So they got to take that into account of their overall cost. Okay. The other thing, if you're working from home and you want to stay working from home, that's going to be a problem because construction is very noisy. And I think people other contractors gloss over that. And I would rather give you all the bad news from go, right, Casey? That's how we operate.
It's the best way to do it. I mean, let you make your own decision, but it's living in construction is very, very, very hard.
Yeah, look, it's one thing if you go to work, you're gone for 8 hours, and you come back and you have to deal with the construction. The guys are gone, by 4:30, 5 o'clock, right? So you come home from work and there's nobody in your house, so you can sort out dinner or whatever you're going to do. But if you're planning on being there when they're operating saws and nail machines and compressors, it's pretty crazy.
It's invasive is what it is. Yeah. I mean, when you have these guys constantly there around you, I mean, it does take a toll on you. So, I mean, figure you're living out of a garage kitchen, I mean, if your kitchen's down, I mean, your general kitchen remodel is what, 3 months? Yep. Somewhere in there.
3, maybe even 5, depending how big it is.
A whole house remodel, you're looking at anywhere from 5 to 8 months type of thing. So it's a long time to be, especially if your bathrooms are down too. Yep. I mean, if you only have one bathroom or if you have 2 bathrooms and you do them both at the same time, where are you taking a shower?
Yeah, it's going to be rough. Some people say they go to the gym, but I would make arrangements. I would just do that. Just especially if you're a couple, you got kids, just save yourself this, don't go insane. Yeah. So, okay, so that's one aspect of it. The other aspect to consider that could be a hidden cost is if we didn't do the engineering for you, very likely when you remove those interior walls, you're going to have an issue with lateral. So in here, in this video or in this slide, you'll see some diagonal bracing, and there was this all over the place, and it was in really bad shape. And it's a big problem if it's not present on the exterior walls, because they're the ones that get the most seismic force. So this kitchen, we ended up putting shear walls on the entire exterior, right?
The entire interior all the way around and created a box.
Right. So we did this wall, and then the opposite walls.
I think when you go back to the design that we talked about earlier, that these homes were built in late 40s, early 50s, into the early 60s, there was no real knowledge of seismic at that time. So they never really accounted for this. So when you see the cracking in your walls and the corners around your windows, you see all that stuff, it's because this originally wasn't designed for that.
100%. The subfloor here we ended up replacing also. And a lot of that has to do with, the material that you end up putting on the floor, or if the existing subfloor is spongy, a lot of rusted nails, broken floor joists, or maybe even the floor joists are undersized.
Sags. Yeah.
Sags,
undersized and sagged.
Yeah. This one we removed the fireplace, if I'm not mistaken.
We removed a fireplace, and we removed 2 massive walls in the middle of this house. So the ceiling in here became a huge ceiling surface with these beams that are up there. So we had to switch the load points to where all the existing weight was at.
You can see they did we put these new posts in, put a big header over there, and eventually this was all wrapped with plywood, with structural one plywood. So I think that that's something that is definitely, that and the sewer line are probably the bigger ticket items to deal with once the drywall's removed. What else? What are other kind of big cost drivers that we've had to deal with that we found out once we removed the walls?
I really think our biggest cost drivers are those. I mean, it really comes down to making sure that you've got the right structure, structurally your sound inside there, and it's been electrical and plumbing. I mean, those are the two that we're just not used to seeing in the last 10 years. It's becoming more of a problem.
All right, cool. So some of the other things that people should consider is obviously the cost of eating out. If you're doing the kitchen remodel, you're down. Look, you can I think offset it a lot by barbecuing and using some other alternate cooking methods like an Instapot that I had just recently discovered. Love cooking on that thing. So the other thing to consider is obviously you're going to be eating out, and if you're doing a big kitchen remodel, you have to take that into account. You do a little bit of barbecuing in the backyard and stuff to offset it, but hey guys, that sound means we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
The kitchen you want today from Bay Cities Construction in the Southern California and Los Angeles area. There is no better company who takes time out of the equation to get you a detailed plan of what your new kitchen will look like. Get your design plans done, your interior design plans done, and entire project scope done right now. Get your finished kitchen in 90 days or less. We are the best in the Los Angeles and Southern California area, and there's no need to shop anywhere else. Just get started with Bay Cities Construction. Go to baycitiesconstruction.com. That's baycitiesconstruction.com. Looking for a bathroom remodel in the Southern California and Los Angeles area? If you've shopped and you've looked at prices and have no clue where to start, let Bay Cities Construction get you started with a quote of get design, interior design, project scope, and know exactly what it will cost to get your bathroom remodeled. There is no guesswork and no need to shop around. Just take time out of the equation to get your new bathroom in 90 days. Get your estimate now at baycitiesconstruction.com. That's baycitiesconstruction.com.
Welcome back, guys. And now my favorite part of the show. It's Alex's Trivia Corner. All right. It is Black History Month, so it's completely appropriate for our trivia question to deal with Black history. So this here, folks, what you're looking at on the slide is the iconic, it used to be called the Encounter Restaurant in LAX. So the trivia question for this week is, which LA-born architect is credited with building the theme building at LAX? Frank Lloyd Wright, B, Paul Revere Williams, or C, or Art Vandelay? Please, guys, post your comments below. Give us your best answer, and for the first person that gets it right, it's coffee on me. It's a Starbucks gift card, so be on the lookout for that. So, folks, the next segment is Casey's Friendly Tips. Casey, we've had some pretty interesting delays due to COVID and the insanity. So why don't you share with what are your tips for keeping their project going, or even pre-launching it to make sure that they can avoid some of the headaches that we're dealing with in construction right now?
Yeah, I think this is the most important thing for us to do right from the get-go. And I know we touched on it earlier, was going to check your panel to make sure that you've got a 200 amp service panel. But really, it's to make sure that we call whoever your electrical providers are, SCE or whoever it is, and make sure that we have them come out and do a meter spot. It average takes between 3 to 10 days for them to come out and a spot where your meter can go, and to give us the okay to transfer your service over to the new 200 amps. So that takes a fair amount of time, but anytime you're dealing with Edison, they're a little on the slow side of doing stuff. So we try to speed up our process by taking care of it before we ever even start the project.
So what we mean by spot check is basically Edison has to approve that the meter's going to be okay, either in that location or the new location that we would like it in.
Correct. If it's being totally moved, they have to approve where it's being moved to. So there are times where we will want it to go someplace and they will come out and tell us, no, you cannot put it there.
Right. So, and they have complete autonomy. The city doesn't get to determine that. It's Edison.
The city has no choice over this. This is all directly from Edison.
Cool. This is when we drill down with your questions. My good friend Brian, what do we got we got any questions on here from the folks?
Yeah, we got some questions here from the viewers.
The first question is...
Yeah, lots of questions here. Somebody wants to know, why are cities requiring as-built for simple remodels?
I have no idea.
Some of them makes no sense. Some of them do make sense. I think mostly they want to enforce any work that's been done at the property without permits historically. I think that's the deal. And, the fees are much higher if you have the more plan sheets they have to inspect. So I'm not saying it's a conspiracy to raise your price, but it could be a conspiracy to raise your price.
Question here about environmental testing. Somebody wants to know, do I really need lead testing?
Casey, you can handle that one.
If you are going to break the paint in your house, yeah, you do. I mean, if your house was built in the time frames where they used lead paint in there, especially if you have kids or animals, it's dangerous. It's one of those things that you would rather know now and deal with it accordingly.
Well, just think about this. Let's say you're only remodeling a section of your house, like the kitchen, and let's say there's lead everywhere, and you demo that, and you don't know there's lead, and the dust goes in all the other different parts of your house. There's now lead everywhere in your house. So, it's just better to be safe than sorry. And look, we have to do it. We don't have an option.
No, and I'm all for it at this point. If it's something that makes sure that it's going to be done and safe for everybody who works in there, especially contractors who work in this environment day in and day out.
Yep. Next question.
Looks like somebody's doing some research into home remodeling. They want to know, why is remodeling so expensive right now?
Me? You're the one that has to deal with all of these people with these insane prices. Well, there's two factors. There's two inputs in to any project, right? You got your labor costs and you got your material costs. As the supply chain has been disrupted, right, worldwide, people are scrambling to source materials here locally, as many as possible. Last year we had disruptions in lumber because of COVID. We had disruptions in the delivery of lumber. For those of you who don't know, as we're shooting this podcast, the truckers in Canada are kind of protesting everywhere. They're causing, road blockages and stuff. And for those of you who don't know, a lot of the glue lam materials, the materials that the beams, the manufactured beams, they're fabricated in Canada. It's a Canadian product. So there's a series of reasonings, but it's mostly because our genius elected officials shut down the economy for a year and a half. So that has caused massive distortions across the entire supply chain. Now, how long will that take to remedy itself? It's hard to say, but you're looking at prices 25 to 30% more than pre-pandemic. And that's just how it is. And I don't really see that going down. Maybe some of the material prices will go down a little bit, but not pre-pandemic prices. I think the new prices are there to stay.
Cool. Somebody else wants to know, how do I know if I need a panel upgrade?
If you are going to do a remodel with your bathroom or kitchen, it will literally dictate if you do not have enough spaces in your panel to hold the new breakers, the arc vaults we spoke about earlier. You will basically required to get a panel upgrade.
Yeah. The panel says also its capacity. The main breaker will typically be a double breaker that's bridged. And that's your
2-pole breaker.
Yeah. That's typically whatever the amperage is on that breaker, you'll see pretty easily what.
Again, think about this. If your house has an air conditioner and it has a electric stove and you have a electric dryer and you have all the electric car chargers and everything in there is electric, because you want to have a clean energy home, all this electricity. When you add up all those breakers and you add up all that number, it gets to a point where it says, I don't have enough power inside my breaker box it is right now, and you're undersized.
Yeah. Most of these houses that were built, pre-70s are 100 amps.
Well, think about this. You turn on your microwave and somebody turns on their hairdryer in the bathroom and something's going to pop. Yeah. The older houses, they didn't have the house weren't wired, in individual areas. So one half of a house literally could be on the same circuit.
That's true.
So when somebody turns on 2 high draws, it's going to pop. Something's got to give.
Very common in Redondo and Hermosa for that scenario.
Manhattan, Torrance, yeah, all these GI build areas.
The older houses. Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
Somebody wants to know, how do you save on remodeling costs in this day and age?
Sell your house and move.
So there's a few things that you're going to have to do. And then really the part of the construction where you can have an effect on the price are 2 things. First, anything that you buy that's custom made will be more expensive. That's 1. 2, the totality of the job, of the scope of work. So that'll have that's something that you can control cost. So what do I mean by that? Okay, well, you want to remodel the kitchen. Well, you can choose to remodel the kitchen within the existing footprint. Okay, meaning you're not knocking down walls. That is way less expensive than knocking down walls. So I always say that the customer controls the scope, because ultimately, hey, if you want an open kitchen floor plan, it's just going to cost more. But it's your choice to make an open kitchen floor plan or leave it compartmentalized, right? So there's 2 things: avoiding custom made products, and number 2, keeping the scope, the amount of tasks that need to be done, to a minimum for what your needs are.
You stay within your budget too.
Yeah. So we always say that we want to try and design towards your budget. That's our goal, right? When we're kind of thinking about how to approach it. So you're in the driver's seat on cost based on the decisions that you make, how much you decide you want to get done.
Yeah, on a side thing, something to talk about here, I think that fits into this on that key point would be another question to answer is along as making sure people have a realistic budget. Making sure that they have an idea of what they want to spend from the get-go is a good way to keep people, knowing where your project's going to go. Like if you know you only want to spend $100,000 on something,
100%. Look,
don't start picking out $80,000 worth of cabinets before you even get started.
And that's the most. This is probably a good segment for to take a snippet of Alex's rants. Yeah. But if you have $80,000 to work with, don't knock down the wall in the kitchen. That's not going to happen.
That's what I'm talking about.
You're never going to do that. If you want to remodel a bathroom for $25,000, $30,000, you're not going to get a $7,000 bathtub in there. That's just not going to happen. So these are things that you have to be realistic about. The scope of the work, the things that you pick out have an impact on the price. And me nor any other contractor can change that dynamic, right? We want you to get what you want as the customer. We just want you to be realistic about what it's going to cost to get those things.
So where are you getting your realistic from is people watching do-it-yourself TV shows where they're doing all this stuff and they're paying, $8,000 for this. They're tallying up what it's costing. In reality, that's nowhere near the reality of it. There is, I think people get a false idea before they even get started on how much they're going to spend on their projects.
Well, every once in a while somebody will ask me, hey, do you watch the XYZ DIY show or, whatever construction show? I'm like, I don't ever watch that. I'm like, why? Because it's entertainment. This is, a lot of the stuff that people learn on the home, whatever network, home wreck your house network. That's just, it's entertainment. This has got zero basis on any reality.
That's actually a good segue to our next question. Somebody wants to know, what is the most expensive part of remodeling a house?
All the infrastructure stuff, the stuff they're never going to see.
Yep. Concrete,
changing sewer lines, putting in foundations, cutting concrete, digging stuff out by hand, updating the electrical, masonry.
Masonry is an expensive one, but I really think the biggest ones are going to be your structural. It's going to be what has to deal with you if you're structurally moving stuff.
Yep, 100%.
Nobody's ever going to see it. It's you're going to put all this money into something that's going to be buried and nobody's ever going to see.
Mm-hmm. So the other thing, like the beams that you put into, and then the foundations when you're removing a wall and transferring the loads over, all of that stuff is tens of thousands of dollars, and you never see it. So you normally end up seeing the nice cabinets and the countertops, but there's a lot that goes into sections of the house you'll never see. So I would say the most expensive stuff is the infrastructure, making it so that you can get the finished look, the opening, the floor plan, etc.
Somebody else wants to know, I've been thinking of a remodel for a very long time. Is this a good time to start a remodel?
There's never a perfect time to start a remodel. I'll tell you that much. Look, you know what a bad time to start a remodel is? In the middle of winter. You don't want to start a remodel in the middle of winter if you're living there. If it's cold, it's going to be rainy.
Plan it out as best you can, what suits your own needs, and just do it. I mean, the longer you wait, the more expensive it's going to get.
Well, I think, Casey, to your point, there have been projects that people have been kicking them around for 2 years, and it's gotten so much more expensive that they have a sticker shock now, right? So if you wait another 2 years, I don't think the prices are going to go down. So it's kind of get your head around a budget that you can live with, and let us help you figure out how much you can get done with that money. I think that's probably the best approach.
Alex, somebody wants to know, of all the projects that you've worked on, which one's your favorite?
Paseo del Campo.
That was pretty fun.
Yeah, Paseo del Campo was challenging. We did a lot of really cool new stuff there. We put in the SIP panels.
That was cool. SIP panels.
We put in a whole new roof. We fought with the art jury like a mother on that job.
You know what else? We had to figure out how to move the AC from one side of the house to the other side of the house.
Yeah,
there had underground AC that was all destroyed.
Yeah, there was a lot of technical stuff, and the house looks stunning. I mean, we fixed so many things. We got rid of that big ass fireplace wall. It was not even just a fireplace. It was a wall of brick.
That was pretty neat.
And we fixed a lot of things that were bad with the house. Like the house had sagging beams.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my favorite one from last year.
No, I think that's my favorite.
Yeah. The floor plan's good. It looks cool.
It's up for sale right now.
It's up for sale. 2.6. Yeah. 2.6 million. Thanks very much for asking questions. Hey guys, it makes the show a lot more fun. If you participate, ask those questions. Please post your questions even after the show. Brian and I will answer your question as long as you post it in the comment section. Hey guys, thanks for watching the show. We got another episode in the books. If you want to learn more about kitchen and bathroom remodeling, please go to baycitiesconstruction.com. And if you didn't watch the last segment on seismic retrofitting, we still have the PDF download that we can send you. If you didn't catch the last episode, episode 49, we had our guest in studio, Carlos from Simpson Strong Tide, where we talked about seismic retrofitting and foundation bolt downs. So check that out. That's episode 49. If you're thinking about doing a bathroom remodel, check out episode 48 for the 2022 bathroom trends. Really cool videos. Hey guys, remember, all of the content that we put together here is for your benefit. We spent thousands of hours, hundreds of hours. We've spent thousands of hours putting together this content for you. It's 100% free so that you can be a better informed consumer of construction services. Our website, Bay Cities Construction, has got over 300 blog articles and a ton of information about different aspects of residential home remodeling and additions. If you haven't checked it out already, we have a pretty robust YouTube channel where we have a ton of cool videos, and Brian has been dedicating a lot of time to sorting them out so you can find them easily. So go to YouTube /Bay Cities Construction and check it out, or you can follow the link below. As always, folks, I want to thank you for watching another one of our show. I want to thank Casey for being in studio, and I want to remind you we've been in business for over 16 years. This is our little info on this slide. Gives you a little quick history. If you're thinking about doing a major remodel, we can help you out with the interior design, architectural engineering. We'll represent you with the city, and then we'll also manage the project and get it done for you. We're doing in-home virtual consultations, and our new expanded service area is we're going all the way from Manhattan Beach, which is an area that we've always serviced, all the way down to Dana Point. So if you're in Orange County and need some help with your project, we are available to help you out with that. This is our contact info. You can also go on Yelp and Houzz and Google and see what other people are saying about us. I want to thank you guys for watching another episode. Look forward to sharing with you. And thanks very much. Bye-bye. See you next week.
Over the years, I've built and remodeled lots of homes, so I know the value of working with experts, like the product experts at Ferguson. When you're ready to make your dreams a reality, find inspiration with bath and kitchen pictures you love. Choose the right contractor or designer for your project, and then schedule some time to meet with a Ferguson product expert. They'll help you find the perfect products from top brands. So schedule a consultation and visit a Ferguson near you.
My name's Alex Rodriguez, reminding you, you don't need a contractor. You need a team of pros.